In this session, we'll be talking about the Tableau interface. What are the major components that are present as a part of this interface, and how can all these things help us in doing a simple visualization of the data. Now, for that, again, I will open the Tableau. Probably it's better that I connect to the data. So I'll say I connect to the data. Let's say I want an Excel file, right? You can connect to the Excel file wherever you have. Let's say I'm connecting it to this National Football League. So I have connected my Tableau data to that Excel file. Now I could see there are a few things that it has pulled out: team, year, points, yards per game, etc., etc. So the data has been typically pulled. Right now, okay, I've got the data. So we will look at the data. Okay, let's come back to this. So this is our data, right? I have connected it to this particular data source. Then let's go to the worksheet here. Within this sheet 1, I will here, if you are seeing, when I come to this sheet 1, here in the data source, this is what is the data. When I click on the sheet 1 here, these are the things. Here you could see there are 3 dimensions that are being shown. So there are some dimensions and there are some measures. Now if I have a different data source, just for understanding, let me pull in another data source just to understand the stuff. Let's say I'm even connecting the maps as well. Now maps is my data set here. So if you come here, you could see that country and measures are there as a part of the dimension, whereas these are the measures, right? Whereas when I come to the data, National Football League data, and I come to the sheet 1, I could see that our dimensions are team, years, measure names, etc. And in the measures, these are some of the stuff, right? So the dimensions, in this case these, and the measures, which are these, they are shown on the left hand column of the Tableau interface. So based on the data that you have pulled, it will use its intelligence in terms of identifying what are the dimensions and what are the measures. So these are the different kinds of measures that it is showing. These are the dimensions. And if you see here, this is the type. ABCs are like strings and these are the numbers. So by default, what Tableau does is anything that is looking more like a string, it will put under the dimensions. So if you look at some of the headings here, these two are more looking like strings. So that's the reason it has pointed them as a part of dimensions. And these are all looking like numbers. That's the reason it has taken all of them into the measures. Right? So these are all different kinds of measures. But if you see, apart from the data, it has done a few more stuff. Number of records, measure values. So here it has taken the measure names. Here it has taken the measure values. And it has even computed the number of records. So this is, if at all there is some kind of change that I want to do, right? Here, let's say year I want to change to something else, or probably year I don't want it here, I want it, let's say, as a part of the measure, just for the sake. I have a facility where I can drag the stuff. So if I really don't want it as a dimension and I want it as a measure, I can very well pull it here. But if I pull it here, you could see that it is showing count of distinct values. So it is, because it's a measure, it has to do some kind of a computation, but it is still showing the type as the string. But if you really want, you can really right click on it, right, because initially it is showing it as account. You can right click on it, and in the pop-up you can very well change it to convert, right, convert to discrete. You can very well, or change the data type. So right now it is showing string. If at all it has been a number, I could have very well converted it as a number, right? Just for the sake of showing, I'm showing it. So because if it is a number, I would have converted it into a number, but now I don't want it here, I want it here only. So I am getting my year back here because it's a string only. But that kind of change, now if you see fumbles, right, by default it is a number, whole number. Now I want to make it a decimal or something, I can very well convert it. But otherwise, by default, based on the data, it will make the allocation accordingly. Probably if you see this, let's say points, right? Let's look at points per game. By default, it has made number decimal because the values are there 25.2, 16.1 kind of stuff. So by default, it is taking them as decimals. So it uses some of its built-in intelligence to really come out with the data types associated with each of them. Now our data is ready. Right now the same logic, probably if I am trying out with the maps data, I could see, yes, it has taken only country here, whereas all other stuff it has brought in here. So depending on the data that we are working with, we could see that the dimensions and measures are going to change. Now I'll come here. So this is my show me panel. So before we start operating on this show me panel where the different kinds of graphs are coming, I have to put some kind of a data on the shelf. So which means I have to really identify what is my column, what is my row. So I have to drag the fields, drop the fields here, just like your pivot table in Excel. Right? So I'll pull, let's say, the dimension. I'll pull one of the dimensions onto the rows. So which dimension? Let's say we want to go with team dimension. So I'll pull it onto the rows here. So what I could see here is different kinds of team names. All the team names have come here like your pivot table. All the team names have come in the rows. Similarly, one of the metric, I can put it as a part of my columns. Let's say points per game. Points per game, I'll drag it into the columns. Now suddenly you could see that it's no more a data, right? Suddenly there is a data visualization that has come out, and it has changed from table to a horizontal bar chart. And probably if possible I can do some more things on the top of it. I can even sort it, right? So I can do all kinds, but by default this is the quick thing that is coming up. And if you look at the horizontal bar chart here, now you come down here, you see if you want to do some kind of a sorting, you can very well come down here at the bottom out here. You could see a downward arrow which is next to your horizontal bar chart. So I can very well click on it. It does a sorting based on the metric. So I could get New England Patriots to be at the top, Dallas Cowboys to the next, and so on. And probably I get San Francisco 49ers to be on the lower side. So again, if I click on it, it does it in the ascending order. So the ascending and descending can very quietly be worked out, and probably if I am again clicking on it, it is going back to the original form. So that's the kind of arrangement I can do on it. So a very simple chart that we have got out. Now let's do a quick play of it. I remove the points, right? I'm bringing out the points here, I simply want to look at it with respect to yards per game. Now suddenly the numbers are different and the graph is different, and I can do the ascending and the descending orders accordingly. Now still I am getting New England Patriots at the top and San Francisco 49ers at the bottom. And I can very well play around with the colors and all that kind of stuff. Right? You can play around with your color display. It's very easier to work out. Right? But by default, Tableau is using some kind of intelligence of itself, which is making the plotting of the charts more and more convenient. Right? Okay. So what it has done in the entire process, now just to understand what it has done, so there is some kind of an automated workout, right? Whether the data is a dimension or a measure. By default, it will look out for the data types, and wherever it has identified a text kind of a data type, it will point it as a dimension, and wherever it is observing an integer or some kind of a number kind of a data type, it will directly take it as a measure. So there is some level of internal knowledge base which will bring out the most appropriate visualization for our data. Here it has chosen the horizontal bar chart, and that too with some kind of a blue color. Again, that is based on its internal intelligence. It is working out that this is the kind of a graph with this kind of a color is much more appropriate for the data. So it has chosen a horizontal bar chart rather than a vertical, because we can read it more easily up to down rather than going from left to right. So you can compare the bars within the chart itself quite comfortably, and because of that reason it has given us a kind of horizontal bar chart. And it can simply do the visualization for us. We can quickly work around with the visualizations across. Now I want to look at who has done maximum number of fumbles. Again, here Tampa Bay has done more number of fumbles, whereas New York Jets, they had the least number of fumbles. So I can very well play around with the different kinds of charts whichever are being highlighted. Now of course I can change from one chart to another. So this is a pie chart that I can plot. But what it has identified is the most appropriate chart based on the data that we have depicted. Right? So this is the basic introduction, Tableau overview, just getting started with the creation of some kind of a dashboard from the original data. Thanks a lot for listening to this session. Thank you very much.